Okay, welcome everyone tonight to the Consumer Affairs Committee meeting here at Rigo Center. We are meeting today with David Fetter with the Soho Dispensary Corp. So we're going to get started. I'd like for you to just start by introducing yourself. I know I've said your name. Yes, you can turn on that mic. My name is Brentley. I'm the co-chair for this committee. This is my fellow co-chair Gladys Sandoval, and these are our committee members as well as our prestigious board chair Heather Dimitriadis, and as well as our district manager and one of our wonderful aides in the office. So if you could just kind of start off by just, once the microphone is fixed already, if you could just introduce yourself and tell us a little about why you're looking to open this adventure in Forest Hills.
Loudly, but if you need for the
record,
yeah.
Oh, you know what? It was on. Sorry.
Thank you for having me. It's a pleasure to be here. Your mic's still working. Okay, that'd be awesome. Yeah. I mean, I don't mind. I just don't want to put your record.
We need it for the camera.
Yeah, so I figured.
Just this one. That one
Check.
was.
Happy to start it off like this. It's better from here.
Try it now.
Testing.
It's staying on.
And this one's good now.
This
Keep shutting off too.
This is the receiver.
Thanks so much. Let's see, Robert, sorry. Got it. No, sorry, I wanted to add everybody on the phone.
And I'll just run back and forth.
This one works. Okay. I sound a little weird, louder than I hear myself usually. So David Fader, it's a pleasure to meet everybody here. Thanks for having this meeting tonight, allowing us to present our plan and what we hope to do in Forest Hills. So I'm a resident in this neighborhood, this particular neighborhood in Forest Hills, about 2 blocks away from the proposed location. I've been living here for about 10 years now since we got married. My wife's from here. We're raising a family, thank God, here. And I'm very involved in the community. I go to synagogues here. I'm very involved in the local community. With respect to the cannabis industry and my business, I'm a business attorney. I've been practicing law since 2010, and I had the good fortune of getting into so we do general practice of business law, transactions, and a lot of litigation. So contracts and when contracts go bad. So I've seen a lot of how businesses fail, and that's my career. I help people in tough situations and transactions that are dicey sometimes. And the wide range of projects that I got into brought me fortuitously into the cannabis industry. I had a client that wanted to invest in a cannabis license in New Jersey. This is way back in 2013 when the industry was just started in Jersey. There was a medical program there. There was only 6 licenses. So that project led me to becoming a board member of that license in New Jersey. So I was introduced very early on to the medical cannabis industry, which is it's a vertically integrated company, which means they grow it, they manufacture it, they retail it. Just a lot of regulations, and it's medical. So you're dealing with really in the medical industry. And then and I was very much involved in New York's emerging market, which was trailing New Jersey's, and that became also a medical cannabis industry, which was finalized and really emerged at the end of 2014. And 2015, beginning of 2015, they announced they're going to allow for applications in New York for medical cannabis licensees. So I put together a team. I happen to have been involved in drafting the MRTA, which is the adult use law that exists right now. I was part of the New York City Bar Association's Drugs and the Law Committee, so we were very involved with Liz Kruger, who spearheaded the MRTA. So I was very much involved in drafting the regulations. So I watched it as it was emerging, and I was like, yeah, this is happening in New York now. And I'm a board member in Jersey. I was like, I had no equity in the company, but I was very much involved in it. So I was like, all right, it's a perfect opportunity. So we put together a team. We applied for a license in New York, and we won. Thank God, we won. We won one of the 10 licenses in New York. It was called New York Canna. That company was sold to Acreage. It was stolen from me. That's a whole other story we can talk about. It was terrible. Sold for $50 million to Acreage. Now they're selling it to Canopy Growth. This is a very valuable license, but the point of it is it was an incredible amount of regulations that we had to navigate in order to apply for this license and win the license. It was a 3,000-page application. You know, compared to what you asked me to send over here, the community board, questionnaire, I was thrilled. I was like, yes, I can answer these questions. And then fast forward, I've been basically, since that point, I've been representing companies and investors and license holders in virtually every area of the cannabis industry, cultivators, manufacturers, retailers. I work with a lot of regulators. I do a lot of pro bono work for people that are in the space. I helped the first licensee, the first adult use card licensee, which is conditional adult use retail dispensary licenses for people that were convicted for cannabis crimes. So I helped the first licensee get his license. That was all pro bono though. And now fast forward to today. So they opened up the licensing application for general licenses, and I was very excited to do it since my New York Canna license was stolen and that $50 million was gone. So I was like, all right, here's my opportunity. I've been working, my wife has held on this long. She's trusted in me. She's like, it's not all for naught. Our kids are, we're okay. And we applied for a license, and thank God we won one of these licenses. We were originally applying for a location. This is for this current license, which is an adult use license. We applied originally in Soho, as the name tells you. But we were zoned out. By the time we were issued our license, the location was no longer good because there was a dispensary within 1,000 feet. That's the regulations in New York, which is another thing we should be talking about today, which we will be talking about today. The state has since relaxed some of these regulations regarding proximity protection. In the most rigorous reading of the law, the current regulations require 1,000 feet between licensed adult use dispensaries. So in New York, we were blocked out by a card licensee. An adult use license was 500 feet away, so we got kicked out. So we've been looking ever since then, trying to find locations. And I'm looking at many locations, and I'm working with other clients that are securing locations and are involved in other businesses. But practically speaking, we are most interested in building family, and being home is important. And my wife does not like when I leave, thankfully, and leaving my kids, thankfully. So we have this opportunity. We found this location that was previously running an illegal dispensary. There was a previous illegal dispensary operating there, which thank God got shut down. I believe it's been closed for 3-4 months or something like that. I'm not sure. But certainly it's closed, thank God. And I have an opportunity right now to open up a dispensary there. Now the challenge to overcome is we require, number one, we would love the community support, number one, which we haven't yet achieved. But most importantly, beyond that, is regulatorily, we need an exemption from the Office of Cannabis Management to be within 1,000 feet of another dispensary. Now, there is another dispensary in the area we're willing to apply, and that is the block over. This is one of Curaleaf's dispensaries, a multi-state operator, and they have been operating a medical license there for a number of years. Well, basically, since the program allowed them to open up there. They're one of the my New York Canna license also. It was down the block on Queens Boulevard. They got shut down. They're terrible. They took the license. They did nothing with it. Sorry, I can go back to this. I'm still bitter. But the point is that Curaleaf's location is within 1,000 feet. So the OCM has recently allowed for exemptions to the 1,000-foot rule. At the most recent meeting, which I was at in Manhattan, they went through the first round ever of exemptions for the proximity protection, and they issued a number of exemptions. Amongst the considerations that they have for providing an exemption to this, which is probably a consideration that the community board should take into account as well, is public access, right? So what they qualify as public convenience, right? Does it serve public convenience to have an additional dispensary within 1,000 feet of another one? Mind you, Curaleaf only recently changed their license to be an adult use license. They were previously only a medical license, but they applied for, and they paid $5 million because they're a gigantic company, they can afford that. And they converted their license to being also an adult use dispensary. So the public convenience, this is the question, right? So for the state and for the consideration of the community board, because I think it's relevant. The considerations that the state was deciding, determining whether they would give exemptions was based upon, number one, was it on the same block, right? Is 2 dispensaries going to be helpful? Having one on the same exact street, when somebody walks past one and they hit another one a few meters down the road, a few feet down the road, does that serve public convenience? And most of the story, even in Manhattan, they made an exception because there's so many people in Manhattan probably, but that's not something that they look for. What they do consider is not being on the same street as being a very big factor. But more importantly is what the impact of that additional dispensary would do and what public convenience does it serve. So in this instance, we submitted we did submit an exemption request, numerous actually. As soon as we got approval, as soon as the landlord said, we can open there, like I immediately started like banging down the OCM's doors, like please give us this exemption. But it was all done before they started having this process because it has to be done at a community, at a cannabis control board meeting. They don't do it happenstance. They don't do it off the cuff. It has to be at a meeting. So the next meeting, so we submitted this request to the OCM. The majority of the brunt of our pitch was that number one, this block is the block in Forest Hills to access Austin Street. Like this is a different conversation than on the block from Martha's Bakery. That's a dead block. There's nothing there. This block is where all the action is. This is where everyone in Forest Hills is going. So just knowledge of the dispensary of a legal option is actually very important to pull away from the illegal dispensaries and give it familiarity. Because the truth is that over the past, how this adult use program has been rolled out, it created a tremendous amount of confusion amongst the adult use potential customers, basically everyone. It can create confusion. People don't know what a legal dispensary is and what an illegal dispensary is. It's hard to tell. They're all called cannabis dispensary. So having a dispensary that's in a prime location, that is where most people are going, is critical to give people education, right? Just to know what a legal dispensary is. It literally say, a legal dispensary, and have the sign from the OCM plastered up front, so you know this is a legal dispensary with a QR code that you can scan and make sure that there's actual active license going on over here. It's very important. So we conveyed that to the Office of Cannabis Management. We also conveyed to them that there's a vast amount of public transportation right by this spot. So if people need to get access or want to have access to cannabis, that they don't have to necessarily walk if they're mobile. If they have mobility issues, that they can take the subway. If they don't have cars, right? There's not really much parking in this area. So giving people access to a convenient point where they can get to this dispensary using public transportation is a tremendous value, especially in a place where parking is limited. And moreover is that there's a lot of events here, right? This is down up the block from a major event location in Forest Hills, and providing patrons of these events access to legal cannabis before they encounter an illegal dispensary is another added value for the community to what we would call, add public convenience. And with your support, we believe that the Office of Cannabis Management would consider our location as being for an exemption for this proximity protection, and would allow us to open up a dispensary there. And the other last piece is that the real estate itself is unique. So the landlord, it's actually a pretty big building. I don't know if you know what's going on here. It's like it goes back, right? So there's the retail spaces in the front, and then you have more retail, it seems like, on top. And then you have, there's like this corridor that goes to the back, which is like this huge open, like almost like an event space, we'll call it. That is available to us if we, and when it makes sense, but if we can get the approval from the Office of Cannabis Management to operate an on-site consumption license there, which our license allows for. Our license allows for retail dispensing, allows for on-site consumption, whatever that means, we'll get to it, and delivery. So we we're able to serve the community whenever we have customers that are to shop in the dispensary. We have the ability to do curbside pickup and the like. So the building's unique character traits would allow us to have a unique business model that would be perhaps one of the first in New York City, maybe New York State, to be at the forefront of on-site consumption. Why am I saying that? Is because nobody really knows what the regulations are going to be for on-site consumption because they haven't been written yet. The state has some segments of the law written out, but it's still being developed. And what does that mean? It means that there may be a point where the state allows for restaurants to serve infused food, which is not allowed yet. The on-site consumption license would allow for people to consume on-site edibles, but not if they're made on-site. It has to be made prepackaged or things like that. There's other ways to work within the regulations to allow for business models to take place there. But at least with the regulations right now, and that's how it's written, is you can only consume the products that you buy at the dispensary effectively and consume it there. That's not really a great business model. So we're not thrilled yet to immediately jump into on-site consumption. We don't really know what that means yet. And plus, I think there's a very serious HVAC system that's already in the building. But if we need to upgrade the HVAC system, we're not certain if that's a wise investment yet for the location. It's going to depend on what the community wants, and it depends on how our customers, react to the location. What we talked about them about, and that's what we did. So I'm happy to answer any questions you may have, and I'm here for you. And I appreciate the opportunity to serve the community and to speak with people that are in charge of that.
David, thank you for such a thorough explanation. You answered a lot of the questions that I have already written down, so that's amazing. Now that you're talking about consumption in the location, are you also thinking of offering food or any other type of beverages? I know that you mentioned that it has to be prepackaged, but I was just wondering.
So with the food element as of right now, again, this is with the current regulations, why we're doing it this way. You're not allowed to sell anything besides your bottle of water, according to the regulations. Any food, you are allowed to have food. You're allowed to consume food at an on-site consumption license, but it technically has to be delivered there. So you can't be, the business itself can't be operating a restaurant and a consumption license. There are models that I've actually created for other clients that are operating right now in New York State that have been rated by the NYPD numerous times, the Department of Health, and have all passed. Nothing has ever been cited with them. So I know the models, I've created the models, I've deployed the models, I've tested the models. So we can, our objective is to create a very unique experience in New York City that will really serve the community by creating an environment where it's safe to consume, where people don't feel ostracized, where they don't necessarily have to walk around on the streets smoking weed and stinking up the streets, right? That there should be an option for people to consume safely and not break the law. Technically, the law right now is you're not allowed to smoke you're allowed to smoke cannabis anywhere you smoke cigarettes, right? Except you can't smoke cannabis in a park at night, even if there's no kids there, right? You can't smoke cannabis on the beach. You can't smoke cigarettes technically, right? So it's not there's not parity exactly, right? So because of that, having a place that's inviting and feels like you actually want to be there and you feel like you're not a weirdo, right? Means using cannabis and you're not in front of kids, right? You're being sensitive. I think that's a very important option. So we're hoping to do that. And if we can get the law, and if the law does allow for us to create a place where people can sit and enjoy their time and eat food and hang out with each other, maybe even one of the models I was thinking was like a co-working space that you can consume on site or like an events. There's a bunch of models that can work there, but it has to make fiscal sense, right? So we don't yet know yet what the business model of that looks like because it's all novel. But unfortunately, because of my position and my job, I'm at the front of the law. I'm constantly reviewing the regulations as they're coming out, as they're being proposed. I comment on the regulations. But yes, with respect to food, as of right now, the only thing if we would have an on-site consumption license at that space or wherever that consumption license would be, we would be allowed to sell the products that are being sold at the dispensary, water, cannabis products, including edibles, and patrons would be allowed to get food delivered there, where they can eat it on site.
On that building, I'm familiar with the building, would you be on the street level or second floor?
We have to be on the street level. Yeah. I mean, technically, the law allows you to be on a second level, but you have to have a dedicated entrance for that. And I'd rather be on the street in that area just because it's prime location. It's where everyone's walking. I don't want to have to look up. I want people to find us.
My next question is, I know that you have a lot of experience advising. Have you been a business owner, or this will be your first business?
I mean, I own a company called WePlug, which is a consulting company. I've been there for basically a decade, providing consultation to business owners in every area of the law and every area. Well, WePlug is primarily the cannabis industry, but that's everything. That's manufacturers of technology, that's software companies, that's but that's my business is WePlug, which is a consulting company. That's the design.
Thank you.
Just a quick question. Obviously, your law practice is probably your primary. Will you be present? I believe also your brother. I'm assuming your brother's name is on here as well. Who will be present, management or a third party?
So as of right now, my wife Leemore is the owner of the company. She's 100% owner. She's what's called employee in charge, which is going to be she has to be present there at all times. But that's temporarily. As soon as we set this business up, I'm running. At least in the interim, because I have the most experience in how to run the business. We have several partners that are operating dispensaries throughout the country. They've come from the West Coast and have managed basically multi-state operators, retail businesses. They're now on the East Coast. So there's a group that I would be bringing on to be the management team.
Thank you. If you are not granted, I'm sorry if it's a variance or the 1,000-foot rule. If you're not granted the 1,000-foot rule, is your intention to acquire a lease somewhere else within the community?
We'd be open to it. I've been looking, and I've been looking everywhere. This is what we found while we're looking at other locations. One of the other locations we're looking at was the Rite Aid down the block. I think it's Rite Aid, the former Rite Aid, based on Austin Street. So we're looking at that location.
So 1,000 feet.
It's still within 1,000 feet. Yeah, it has to be. Yeah, I mean, I live it for ourselves. I want to work here. It's convenient. I can raise my kids. I don't have to disappear all the night. The goal would be to open up for ourselves. So if we can't find this location, if we don't get the exemption here, we're going to keep looking at it.
Hi, good evening. I guess, one of the things we kind of focus on here is hiring within the community. And it sounds to me like you'll start in the community with your wife, and then you'll move into bringing somebody in from the outside. That person won't know this community. I mean, when you talk about hiring in the community, you're talking about for the other positions, or because you did say here that you would be trying to hire within the community. Can you sort of walk us through the positions that you'd be looking to hire for in the community?
Sure, of course. So certainly me and my wife would be working this business, right? We live in the community.
Right, but you said that after a certain point in time, once you get it up on its legs, you bring in a group from a management team out from your team. Is that a local team, or is that like an interstate that couples different states?
So this is a manager.
Okay, yeah. Oh, this would be
It's
one
a manager. Yeah, it's a person. It's a person who knows how to run a team, manage a business. We're not bringing like people from Chicago to start being retail here.
Okay, and so then you'd be looking to hire your delivery people, your security people, likely locally, correct?
I mean, sure, but that's way better for me. I mean, I want people to be from the community and be able to get to work on time and not be late and be able to talk to their friends about how great we are. And that's of course that's the apex version of this.
Yeah. Sorry about that. That's interesting. Okay. You mentioned about one security person, and then you're also going to have a person doing delivery. So, we've talked to different folks, and everyone does it just a little differently. The person doing the delivery, they will travel alone. Is that correct? To the place to whomever they're delivering to, or will they have a partner?
It depends. So local deliveries would probably be one person, and then the further delivery center, or it depends. I mean, there's different ways of structuring it, and it all depends on the demand. So, for example, if we have a bunch of, so orders don't happen, you don't get the order in and jump right out right away. There's a minimum size order that would justify somebody leaving the location, unless it's like really close. But if it's the way the business model has currently been run with other dispensaries that I work, that I work with, is that delivery orders come in, hopefully from all over the state, or at least within this New York City, across New York City. So if you're sending out delivery servicing, oftentimes what people will do is they'll select the time that they want to deliver also.
Yeah.
So there's like the whole, there's like,
Kind of like Instacart.
yeah, so there's a dispatch system that orchestrates all of this and batches it out, and then where the size of the delivery is large enough, we would probably be sending out one, like for example, let's say it's in Manhattan, right? We have a number of orders, right? We would send out a vehicle with one person to drive the vehicle, which has to be secured and has the inventory in it. And we may have one runner, going to the different, using the vehicle as the dispatch point, the temporary dispatch point. So, but to your question, with respect to if this is in the question of security, then the answer is that people that are going to be doing individually the deliveries, it's going to be at a max. They're going to have a maximum amount that they're going to be delivering with, so they're not going to be considered a target. And we don't want to. It's inefficient to have one person going to numerous places usually, because all the orders are not necessarily like in one location.
Right.
So, but with respect to security, I'm very much focused on and involved in security with my synagogue and with my community. So security is paramount for us.
Sure.
We are we don't yet know whether it requires to have a paid armed guard, but there will be people that are involved in the business that will be armed if necessary, because they with private weapons, people that are trained, employees of them. But that's not the objective. The objective of this is to be as minimally militant as possible. If we want a friendly environment, we'll have a security guard. We haven't seen like massive break-ins happening across the state. In the illegal dispensaries, you do see that. I don't think there's even been one instance yet of a legal dispensary that has been robbed yet. I could be incorrect, but I haven't seen it. So we're going to have security present and apparent. But I don't think that we're going to have an entire security team. We're going to store everything safely, and we're going to lock the gates.
Did I read this correctly that you're going to try to be as cashless as possible?
Yeah.
And if so, does that mean you're going to use things like Venmo, Zelle, stuff like that?
As of right now, those are not options. There are debit card options, which are allowed.
So it would be debit card only?
Whatever is allowed. Whatever payment systems are allowed and our customers want to pay with, we're going to take it. If we're allowed to take Bitcoin, we're going to take Bitcoin. Why not?
I'm used to Bitcoin.
Here's the opportunity.
I'm a little lame in that regard. I'm not very well versed. The other concern is that, like you mentioned, it is the main thoroughfare to coming into Forest Hills, and it is busy, especially when we do have concert nights. I know it's really hard, I think, to talk about the on-site consumption because we don't know what the law is yet. We don't know what you are going to be permitted to do and not to do. So I don't know that we can really have discussions around that just yet, because again, we just don't have the pertinent information. But we also know that in that main thoroughfare that we do have a lot of homeless folks that tend to traverse up and down the thoroughfare. And you said you have security on board. So what if you had, I guess what I'm asking is like, what if somebody was coming in and purchasing for themselves or maybe purchasing for them? Because we've had instances on the block where we've had local liquor stores providing gratis alcohol to some of the homeless people on the street. So you never know if somebody might be going in to purchase for that person. I know you can't kind of prevent that, but I'm just concerned about the homeless presence there. And if you've thought it through, sort of what your plans are to sort of mitigate any kind of issues with your customers, issues maybe with security, because I don't think there's another store around that has that type of security. It's my understanding that when stores come in with that level of security, it actually brings good things to the community. So I think that having your security is a good thing. I just wanted to know if you guys have thought through sort of some of the sort of traffic that goes through that area.
Yeah, we're very familiar with the possibilities that can happen in a dispensary. People that show up that are not homeless, that are not normal, and people that are, good intentions, but cause disruptions. We handle it the same way any other retail business would handle it, is with security. You have a security team there to keep things in order, try to de-escalate things, try not to cause, try not to inflame the situations. I'm not a security personnel, I can't really answer that question definitively, but certainly the same way the liquor store that's on the block handles this issue, we'd be handling it in a similar manner. Except for giving routes, alcohol or cannabis, that's not allowed.
Understood. And you of course are doing IDs at the door, correct?
Yes, of course.
Okay, great. And let's see here. You said about coordinating with the community. I just wanted to say one of the things that might be helpful, our police department is broken into sectors. So maybe one of the things you might want to do is introduce yourself to that sector when and if the time should come that you get approved, because they are hyper focused on that particular area, and then it would also be helpful that see a friendly face. I think they have that.
That's part of our plan. I think we submitted that in our plan.
Okay. And I guess my last question, and give it to everybody else so I don't monopolize the night, is I know that you went before the community board in Manhattan. It was what? Board two. And it seems like they denied you and everybody else that they met with that night. But it seems like you got the license despite their denial. Is that what we're to understand?
No, that's incorrect. We were denied local support for a dispensary because there was that dispensary that opened up within 1,000 feet of our location. Had that not been there, we would have got that approval from the community board. But the proximity protection blocked us. The dispensary that was open within 1,000 feet of our location in Soho blocked us. So the community board said, we can't authorize this. They were incorrect by the way. They said, we can't support you because there's a dispensary within 1,000 feet. They have full authority to support us. They just didn't have the final say. They were correct about being the final determinant. But certainly they had the ability to, if they wanted to support us. But we didn't get that support from them at that night. Perhaps now, if we would go back to them, they would give us that approval because there are these exemptions that didn't exist back then.
Okay.
Possible.
And then I think there was a different applicant too. Was it Marsha or Monica?
There were two applications, one for your wife.
My wife has a license and my mother has a license, Marcia.
Well, it's all in the family.
Almost,
right.
they have a relative that knows the law,
That's awesome.
Hey, that's fun. Strike while the iron's hot. Okay, that's my questions. I'll pass it along.
I have questions about, you mentioned something about expanding into merchandising and brand visibility. So you're thinking of creating your own products? And also you have, the second one, 2 names for, I like one better than the other. I like that.
Which one do you like better?
I like Forest Hill.
Yeah, me too.
Better. Yeah.
So merchandising, so initially, the law allows for limited amounts of merchandising for dispensary owners. So if you're on the dispensing side, you're only allowed to make merchandise that are associated with your brand, but it cannot be cannabis products. So let's say Forest Chills would open up a dispensary, that would be the brand. We would not be allowed to sell Forest Chills joints, in as much as I think that's a shame. We would only be allowed to sell Forest Chills t-shirts, swag, merchant like accessories, things like that. But I think the law on that's going to change, I believe. I think that's just a temporary restriction. I think that limitation is going to go away, and they're going to allow for dispensaries to sell their own products. So ideally, certainly my objective is to be able to sell our own brands and be able to, improve our margins. But yeah, that would be the goal. But as of right now, we're not allowed to. But the merchandise that I was referring to, at least initially, would be all the things that we're allowed to sell in the retail space. That would be, cannabis-esque, accoutrements for for cannabis. Of course.
Awesome. So my question would be, actually it's two questions. I'll go with the first one first. So the first one is, I hope you get those waivers where you can do edibles consumption on site, and also the 1,000 feet thing with leaflet. But those are things that we're hoping for. But in the meantime, I know you're saying pre-rolls, tinctures, things like that. One of the things that we do in the community boards, we really want to bring in companies that want to stay. Because if you notice, you live in the community, sometimes businesses come in, they don't stay for a long time, and we want to see you thrive and be successful. What is your plan if some of these things don't come to fruition? Like, what is your plan? Are you just going to sell the pre-rolls, the tinctures, and just continue your business? Or are you going to continue fighting and be more focused on making sure that merchandising is approved, that consumption is approved? Like, I just kind of want to hear your, I guess a contingency plan, like your alternative plan for that.
Yeah, absolutely. So, I mean, we're certainly not planning to fail, but failing to plan is planning to fail, right? So certainly we have alternative approaches to this, but again, I think it's very important for me to preempt, just preface what I'm about to say with all this is hopeful, and it's all going to be dependent on our customers and what we see is happening, and what we can afford to do. Right? I'm not Curaleaf. I'm not a public company. So that being said, we view the product lines that we're going to be selling as being a feature of what we are about. I believe that a better description of what a dispensary really is. So just back up a little bit. I spent some time doing research into cannabis dispensaries. This is years ago. My uncle has he was very big involved in like marketing and advertising. He had a company, it was a research company that monitored how people shopped. It was like a shopping behavior analysis company. And he was top of his game. He worked for like Pfizer, Procter & Gamble, Microsoft, like big ones. So when my business, when I won that license in New York, it was stolen from me. I was like, this is terrible. I need to do something. Right? So I spoke to my uncle and I was begging him. I was like, please, the cannabis industry needs to know what the hell's going on. Nobody knows what to do. It just selling it. At that point, it was mostly medical also. So he reluctantly agreed to let me do a research study. So I went to California, where my friends had a dispensary, and I did several days of research studies on how people behave in dispensaries. We went to numerous dispensaries throughout the state and did an analysis there, basically like secret shopper studies. We had cameras set up throughout the dispensary. We had people wearing glasses that had cameras. Like this is way before Meta had this. And we basically watched the footage and we researched how people were shopping. And what we found was people in California at the time, dispensary owners were not selling cannabis at all. They were facilitating the sale of it, and there was no real education happening. One of the studies that we did was we had somebody go in to numerous dispensaries and say, they'd ask for a product and they'd get the product, and then they'd say, oh, and by the way, what do you recommend for somebody with pain? Oh, sorry, you said, what do you recommend for an old person with pain? That's what we said. What do you recommend for an old person with pain? And without fail, every single dispensary recommended something different. It's completely different. It was either they said smoke this joint, eat this edible, take this pill, and THC, CBD, it was all across the map. Some they were just assuming like, oh, they said take some balm and rub it on their knee, assuming that the person, they didn't ask any questions. They didn't know it was a male, female, why they were sick, why they were in pain, whether they had surgery, they had no idea. So what I realized there was a huge gap in what was existing was that people were letting the product sell itself, and they were not really informing customers. So what I see as an opportunity in this dispensary is to really tap into what people are coming to the dispensary for, and catering to their needs, and creating relationships with customers. And our contingency plan is that those relationships are not going to be based upon, oh, do you have a joint today? It's going to be that we are catering to them by curating through the vast array of cannabis products that exist today, and the myriads of others that are going to be created over the next few months, years, as more licensees come out and more brands come into the space. So, and with that relationship, what we're planning on doing, as we put into our proposal, was to create a lot of events, educational events, things like that. And that would take place in this space because this venue allows, right? We don't have to do all the stuff inside the dispensary itself. The building itself allows for it. I mean, again, it all depends on our budget, but that's our contingency plan. Our contingency plan is that we're not just selling weed. That's not our objective.
So you mentioned your uncle, so we're kind of ask you to go into more details. Maybe he's the one that's going to help you with that. I don't know. When there's that question about marketing, branding, and one of the things you mentioned is social media. Now, one of the things about Forest Hills, as you know, you said you have children. It's a very family-oriented community, and one of the things I know that the Office of Cannabis Management is saying, like, you can't have bright lights, and you can't have things that are appealing to children. And I'm just wanting to know, and you don't have to have this tonight, maybe you can kind of share with Christine as the strategic manager, but just like a rough marketing plan, because you're saying here target social media ads and posts aimed strictly for audiences of 21 plus. I don't know how to do that, so maybe you can, like, with your uncle's help, maybe if you don't either, just to know how you plan to do that, because one of the things we don't want is our young preteens, teenagers, people under 21 seeing these ads as well and be like, oh, cool, there's a new post that's in the community. And that's something I concern myself with, and so that's just something to think about. If you want to talk about tonight, you can, but don't feel like you have to. I just kind of want to learn more about it down the road if possible.
I think that's a fair question. I do live in the community. I pray in the community. My kids go to school in the neighborhoods. This is a very delicate thing. I'm very sensitive to being the owner of my wife being the owner of the dispensary. She hates weed. Her parents were not thrilled that I put her on this dispensary license, that she won this license. They were not so happy. She went to law school. She's a real serious person, and she was reluctant to allow this to happen. And I myself, I had another option to open up a dispensary, closer to the community, and I felt very uncomfortable being near residential areas. I'm very sensitive to it. Our marketing will align with my sensitivities and with the law.
I want you all to have your questions too. Maybe some of your questions.
Would it be all right if I take a 2-minute break?
Of
Do the rest
course.
of it?
Yeah, go ahead.
Thanks. I didn't clip. Thanks. No, thank you very much. I'll leave the microphone here.
Is the camera still going?
Yeah.
You can talk on the camera?
Yeah, we're gonna keep it rolling all night.
I still don't like the 1,000 foot.
I don't want to the president.
No, I don't like it.
That's why I asked, because.
No, I don't like it. I don't like it, sir. That's all I'm gonna say. Yeah. That's all.
I love the fact that not being
I
president.
don't like to, and I'll tell you what I'm sorry.
Okay.
I don't like to promote that stuff. So, doing this 1,000 foot, I don't like to do it. I told you that the last time in the resolution, that's why I wanted it. I know OCA wants to do it, I'm against that.
I just don't see where we have such, we're talking about the oversaturation. We're not oversaturated.
I can't.
We have to.
We're not oversaturated.
One, don't do the
What's that?
two that are saturated, meaning like.
We're not saturated.
We're not, yeah. Like
So
if
if we set the
it's
president,
yeah.
put you within 1,000 feet, we will have
Like,
5
like,
within 1,000 feet.
Maybe like closer to your term, I don't think
I don't think it's because we have so many restaurants. So there is a rule that restaurants can open within 500 feet of each other, but they waive that because there's so many. Glad to have you back.
So I know you didn't expect to speak. We heard we do have a few more questions, but we promised you we won't take too much longer. I do want to quickly mention, because you kind of hinted on it a couple times tonight, how you really like being in the community. You don't really want to go leave home. Your kids don't want you to leave home. Your wife. I guess I just want to know the two-part answers. One, we have the hours being 10 a.m. to 10 p.m. And it's kind of late, I feel like, for our community, personally. That's just me. I mean, I like things to be open a little later, but that's not how it is. It's a family community. But also, how long do you plan to have your wife be the employee in charge until you bring in that management company to start hiring local? Because she doesn't want to, you said she doesn't want to also be paying for a long period of time. So if you can maybe just give a little bit of elaboration on that possibly?
Absolutely. Yes.
Sorry, I think we've reached our limit.
This was a
Brandon,
first,
See,
probably.
you were done in an hour, your microphone is done in an hour. We should take it as a sign. We'll just pass it back and forth.
It's a great question, and it does not have a clear answer yet.
Okay.
That's the truth. The goal is to bring on a manager, who I told you about, who would be full-time on this to supplement what I would be doing. Realistically speaking, the plan would be as soon as as soon as the location, with God's help, so we get approval and we get the exemption, we start building out immediately. We request a site inspection from the Office of Campus Management as soon as we know we're ready. And the date we have the grand opening, we have a manager in place, whether it's me or whether it's going to be somebody we hire at that point. It's not going to be my wife, that's for sure. She's not going to do that. She's expecting, very expecting. So that's all.
I know that the other question.
Super quick question. I know we're limited on the conversation regarding the on-site consumption. Just help me visualize within the building, how close or how far is the event space from your location, and like what types of vendors are in between? Like are they, a children's store or family vendors?
I didn't get enough exercise today.
Thank you. So the building is, the way it's set up is that there's, the retail stores are in the front, and then there's a doorway in the middle, and there's a long corridor that there's no roof on it, so there's a long corridor that's open. There is and then it leads, which leads to a doorway, a double doorway. That doorway opens up to the right. If you go upstairs, there's a beauty salon. And if you go straight, there's the humongous event space, which is basically it's two floors. There's steps that go upstairs, and it goes all the way around. It's a big open floor plan, I guess. And yeah, that's it. Like I think there's a retractable roof, which is insane, really cool. For when it's warm enough outside for you to consume, it's not it will be engulfed in smoke. But there's no other businesses operating inside besides for the beauty salon, which is upstairs. They've already they already have their own filtration and stuff like that because of the chemicals that they use. But they're aware of what we're doing. They have like a separate access point, so there's no like there's no way to get from one place to the other without security. And that's really it. So it's not right on. The beauty of it is that I wouldn't want to have a on-site consumption like it's right on the street level, because first of all it's just not convenient, it's not classy, but also it's like they'll spill out every time someone opens the door, it'll stink. So even with the best air filtration. So the beauty of this building is that just the way, by good fortune, is that the way it's designed is that the consumption area, if we have it, is far to recessed. So like it's the street level, it's like back here. That's where the entrance is. The building goes really far back. I was shocked when I saw it. But again, like this is a phase 2, phase 3. I don't know what phase you call it. I love the concept of it, of having the ability to do this, because most other dispensaries that are opening up throughout the state, the legal ones, are opening up where they can open up by virtue of like proximity, distance, and zoning. It's complicated. Also finding a building owner that would allow you to have a dispensary there. And then on top of that, a building owner that doesn't have a mortgage that precludes you from opening up a dispensary there, right? It's really hard to find a building that's even compliant at this point. And most people, what they're doing is they're just opening where they can. Just like, I gotta open up, I got this license, I'm gonna lose my license. They just open up without thinking of like a plan that's sustainable. I've held this license since we got zoned out for quite some time, looking for the right location. It's because it's not worth opening a business that's going to fail. Like I'm not willing to jeopardize my family, my career, like and check a lot of stuff going on. People rely on me. So I think that the opportunity that exists in this particular building, which is why it's worth fighting for this proximity with the OCM and hopefully getting support from the community, is that it really creates a unique experience that is perfect for what we're trying to accomplish, which is like the cannabis experience. It's not just a restaurant. It's not just an event space, right? When you're having cannabis consumption involved, you need to have a unique space, and it's got to be away from where it's going to bother people, right? And as much as we think it's acceptable, socially acceptable now, it's legal, rah rah rah. I've been at this for 13 years now. Like I've already seen it all, but I still recognize the truth, which is it doesn't belong everywhere. And the uniqueness of this building would allow us to access this business model without being in people's faces.
Sure. David, do you have any questions?
Nobody else does.
You always ask questions.
So I have two questions. First of all, when you say the possible name, Forest Chills, we did receive an application at the very beginning for a location on Austin Street. That was you? Okay. Is there a reason why you decided not to move forward with that application?
Because at that point, there was no exemptions for zoning. And also because we didn't end up getting the lease from the landlord. He pulled it from us.
Okay. The second question I have is, you mentioned the illegal dispensary that was shut down. So when you're facing the building, right, there's a store on the left side of the building and a store on the right side of the building, and the corridor is in between.
Right.
So the space that you have leased for would be on the right side where the illegal dispensary was.
Yeah, we'll take it over.
So there's something currently open there. Is that something that you're operating?
I don't know what's just Mike.
Sure. So it says Royal Leaf Club.
So I don't know what's there. I'm not there day to day.
Okay.
I
But you haven't opened any?
No, I don't sell cannabis illegally. I can't. I'm not aware.
Well, I think you can sell some
No, but I'm
things
saying
without.
there's as far as I have nothing to do with anything going on in that building. My lease only takes effect as soon as I get
Your license.
my license. Yeah. So, but as far as I know, there's nothing open there. And if there is, then I don't know what the hell's gonna happen.
Oh, that's
That's not cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, so we have asked the authorities
To investigate it because there is something open, has been for a couple weeks now. We've been getting calls about it. So that's something that will probably come up at our community board meeting as well. That they were shut down by the sheriff's office and now somebody has reopened there. So it could cause a problem for you, but I just want to clarify that that is not in any relation with you or your business. Correct?
Oh, no, I think you're asking me?
Yeah,
Oh,
so-
yeah, no, nothing.
Okay, that was my question. Thank you.
I do have one more question, and then we'll give you some information regarding our next steps, okay? I just wanted to quickly go over the lease agreement that you provided to us today. I do want to just a question. I noticed that the address listed on the corporation is a Manhattan address. I was wondering if that's meant to be like that, or is
Yeah,
it?
that's my office address.
Okay, cool. I just wanted to confirm.
Yeah,
It just says that one dispensary report. I'm like,
My office is 225.
perfect. That's all
Just
the
with a
question.
corporate file.
Just want to make sure. And then, so next steps is we have a meeting next week, or once you leave, we'll have a discussion. And then next week we have a full board meeting, which you are invited to come to as well. We'd like for you to be there.
That's the 18th.
The 11th.
The 11th.
11? Oh, 11?
Yeah, it's going to be,
Wednesday.
it's a Wednesday. It's going to be in Queensboro Hall in Kew Gardens. If you don't know what it is,
I'll send you all the
yeah.
information.
We usually we try to do this as soon as possible so that we don't keep there all night, but if you, just let you know, if you can make sure you're there. I think the meeting starts at about 7. We usually go till 9:30, sometimes 10, but hopefully we'll get you out sooner than that. Just want to let you know, since you didn't know about us being here tonight for a long time. There may be some questions that we don't have an answer, and we would like for you to be there to maybe just say, hello, this is who I am. Maybe get a little spiel about it in the beginning, and then, like I said, hopefully this will be recorded, that the board members will look at this, so that their questions may be answered, but there may be a question that someone still asks, and we want you to be prepared for that. And then we will give you our notice as well at that meeting. Okay?
I'm just speaking.
Yeah, you can just speak.
Okay, the Cannabis Control Board just announced, so I got notice. I probably should.
Go to the secretary. Material.
Thank you, sorry.
No, that's okay.
So I should have followed up when I went on so many rabbit holes before. I apologize. I just forgot which one I was in. The notice that we sent to the Office of Cannabis Management when we requested our exemption, I submitted this numerous times. Right? They just ignored me for a long time. I went on I submitted it like numerous times, and they kept rejecting it because it was too close to curative. But I knew that they were allowing the exemption, so I just kept harassing them. And not really harassing them, being persistent. So they recently, I forget how long ago it was a few days ago, honestly. They, actually, pull up, it doesn't matter. But I got notice, an email from the OCM a few days ago saying, we've received your request for exemptions, and we are reviewing it. So it was a little weird because when I submitted my request to secure the location, it was rejected by the portal, but that's probably an automated system. But it seems like that they're now considering it, right? So why am I saying this? And why is it relevant right this second to extend this meeting for a few more moments? Is because the OCM just announced today that they're having their next Cannabis Control Board meeting next week. Next week, I believe, on
December 10th.
the 10th? I think it's, yeah, the 10th. Good.
We got an email about it too.
There you go. So, which I assume that they're going to be considering our exemption request. So it's possible that the OCM may issue an exemption on the 10th, which would, I don't know how that would play into the upcoming meeting that's coming up, but I would want, either, so there's two things. One is, I would like that to be considered for the community board meeting, right? So I guess I would send you an update or update you with the OCM's decision if with God's help it's favorable. But simultaneously is my question is, today's the 4th. Is it possible that there could be a decision issued by this community board prior to the 10th, I guess, so that I can submit it to the OCM and say, hey, by the way, I went in front of the community board, they had a discussion, and this is the decision so far.
It has to go before the full.
So just to be transparent, you can speak more as you want. I don't necessarily think, I was trying to be louder, but I can speak.
So just to be completely transparent, we have to have a quorum to make a decision as a committee, and we do not have enough. We will do a straw poll tonight, and we will make that announcement to our board, and then we have to make a full board decision. So unfortunately, we will not be able to make a decision before the 10th. So this is also approval. Yeah, I mean, not approval. This is in favor, support, to say, yes, we are in support of this coming to our community. So that's why I just want to mention that.
I know it's not determinative one way or the other with the OCM. They could say yes, even if the community board says no.
Yep.
They do that all the time. But what I'm saying is that as part of the consideration for the exemption, it's more meaningful with respect to the exemption than it is with respect to just general licensing. Right? Community board approval or support when it comes down to just general licensing is almost meaningless. But with respect to the exemption, it may play a role. So if there is a leaning or if there's a way to call for a meeting with a quorum, maybe virtually or something like that, if it's favorable, obviously, if you guys are willing to support it, then that could perhaps go a long way with the OCM. It may not be necessary, but that's all I'm just mentioning.
So even if you had a quorum tonight, it would just be a recommendation to the community board. This committee does not make a recommendation to the OCM. So the community board, this is only like 6 people. The community board consists of 45 members. So for 6 people to make a decision
Nice to see it.
on behalf of the 45 people that will be there on the 11th, that wouldn't be fair. So what we can do, and I think I mentioned this when I spoke to you on the phone, is we could write a letter saying that we met with you. That would be okay, because that's what happened, we met with you.
Right.
But we wouldn't be able to say whether we were in favor of it or against it.
Thank you.
You're free to go.
Thank you so much for your time. You are welcome to go home and spend time with your family. Tell your wife we apologize. But yeah, that's why I want to let you know for next week, you will be out a little late, so just to forewarn your family. Yeah, plan accordingly.
What day is that?
So it's a Wednesday, December 11th. So I'll send you all the information. But if OCM decides without the community board approval, to grant you this exemption, I would like, we would like to know that, because I'm sure this will be part of the discussion on Wednesday. So even though we can't give you that support, I think it would be helpful for us to let the community board know that OCM has granted this without the community board's approval as well.
I figured you know.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Have a great night. Nice meeting everybody. And you believe you get a chance to ask questions.
made a mistake in the last meeting where I said we can go ahead and turn the camera off now, and that was my mistake. It should stay rolling. Committee discussion is part of the public. If someone from the public wanted to come to this meeting, they could.
Okay.
They choose not to,
No,
but
I
they
understand.
could. So that's why the committee discussion is part of the
So
public.
essentially, it should be on the microphone right now.
Yes.
Christine.
The camera does pick up some sound in a room like, in an atmosphere like this, when there's not 50 people in the room, it will pick it up. You know, they can hear what I'm saying.
So I just wanted to confirm, I don't think they do, but does the board get this as well, or is it just us? Okay, my,
Went out to the entire group.
great, that's fine, just want to make sure. So just confirm, I feel like when you're emailing them about next Wednesday, I think that she needs to attend as well. Because it says here, she's 100% the owner, she's also the employee in charge, and I feel like that's going to be a question of like, why is she not here?
So in the past, we have, like, when we had that company that came from Colorado or whatever, not all the people from the business were here.
The main owner was, I remember the main
No, but
owner
I'm just
was-
saying, like, so we did say, like, as long as somebody is representing the company and as long as they can answer the questions on behalf of the company, I mean, if the committee wants her there, that we can require that, that's up to you.
I just wonder if people are gonna ask that question. I don't care either way. But if I saw, like, that was one of the questions I actually was like, if she's the owner, she's gonna be the key staff member, why is she not coming to represent? Now, he explained that by saying, you know, she's just the one who was on the licensing application, which kind of made me a little,
That's
it's
just
okay.
legal.
That's-
Yeah.
Complete legal protection.
Yeah, so that kind of.
Because he did call me today and he said his wife is like 9 months pregnant and they have kids, like, does she have to come? And I said, as long as somebody is here to represent the company and can answer the questions, that's okay. So, She's gonna have. Well, he said she's very pregnant,
Yeah.
whatever that means.
Yeah.
So, but we can request that she comes to the community board meeting, that's completely up to you guys.
Maybe you can bring his
I
mom.
mean, no, I said, 9 months pregnant. I mean-
No, that's fine. I'm not expecting her to be there. I just think that if, you know, I just know our board, and not all of them may not watch the video before our meeting. They may have questions that we, one, already asked, or two, you know, that he has written down here. And they may say, like, when they read this, like, well, if Lamore is the owner and the employee in charge, why is she not here?
Well,
That's
I
the
think his
question.
answer will be, she's only the interim.
She's not gonna be there at all, period, ever.
Pretty much,
This is-
yeah.
This is.
His business, this
But
is
then-
his
But
business.
it's his business, she is literally, it's corporate veil.
Exactly.
I put this under your name, under your name.
Yeah.
And you're on passing profit, it's, quite frankly, I think this is probably as bad as the scenarios are beginning. The only thing that I like about this, that they are local. But how local are they that he's 2 blocks away, so am I?
Doesn't know that.
I know that, he just signed a lease for this place 3 weeks ago, he hasn't walked by and looked in the window lately. When I sign up for a business, I walk by constantly, like, I'm chomping at the bit.
I've driven past several
So
times and they.
I think he might be involved in this thing. I went on his Instagram.
We're all like Columbo. Before this meeting, Barbara and I were
I
taking pictures
love that
on
he's
71st
local,
Avenue.
everything else
I
about
said
this.
Colombo, you mentioned Colombo.
I love that he's local, and other than that,
But what did you, but I mean,
and I'm sorry to interrupt, but
no,
I would love if we can, once we said, I feel like we're setting a precedent, if we approve, I support him being local. The fact that within 1,000 people, once we set the precedent, I feel like we're gonna have 15 in courses. And supply and demand, and, you know, they lead each other out, that's business.
Just the only thing I
talk up.
the only thing I have, if I was him,
They
you
talk
know,
up.
it's almost like, maybe I'm wrong on this, this is what I would have done, but I'm sure maybe it's not a good business then. You're going to Curaleaf and tell these people that I'm opening one around the corner to, would you tell somebody that? What do you think? You know, does Curaleaf, by the way, does Curaleaf know that he's opening up one?
I think we have to think about it this way though. I agree with you, David. I am not
You're not being loud enough.
I agree. I think that if they were opening a business near another business, that would be nice to just say, hey, hello. Just FYI, we're coming into the community. And when we run the corner. However, you brought this up a couple of meetings ago, and it actually hit really hard. It really hit home for me, or like, kind of made me think differently. If we approve liquor licenses for restaurants, new and renewed. However, we do not have any dealings with, that I'm aware of, liquor stores opening in the community. And if you look, we have a lot of liquor stores that sometimes are near each other. And that's one thing that you brought up. So that's what we have to begin to think about that way, is this is becoming a legal business. So it might be nice to have a little competition once in a while. And that's the only reason why I wanted to bring that up as an alternative.
Oh, boy.
Can I
I disagree.
Can I argue
Here's the
something?
thing. Cannabis and what he's talking about, what he's talking about.
Yeah, I'm sorry. It's like we're on
Here's the thing. Cannabis and liquor are two different things. Well, I want to get that straight, okay? That's two different things, okay? The bottom line is, once they're going to get one exemption, then everybody else can go on the same block and do the same thing. You know where I'm going with this. I know you're going to do a straw poll. I want to make sure it goes around the table on this. Because you know from the last thing, I asked for a resolution. The reason is now you see what OCM is going to do. They're going to try to catch up now, okay? That's what they're doing. They're behind the 8 ball, okay? They're going to try to get everything over. Yeah. I know what they're doing. It's not a good look. It's not a good look to have cannabis stores all over the place next to each other. All right? That's my point of information. Okay?
I think it's a good look for the West Village.
It's a ballot.
I have just one thing that I just want to explain too is, so with liquor licenses, there are actually rules that say you can't open within 500 feet of another establishment serving liquor. But in New York City, there's so many establishments serving liquor that it's impossible to accomplish that. So the SLA does allow restaurants to open within 500 feet of each other. I was talking to Heather about this. I don't think we're at that point right now. I think that there's enough real estate and there's enough open places in our community that, and I don't get a vote, but that they can go to without offering this type of exemption. Now, as he said, SLA can issue it without our approval. Can I?
You can finish, but you haven't been on Roosevelt Avenue. I've been on Roosevelt Avenue with friends. Go down that block. Every block has cannabis. I'm just saying. No, I understand that. I understand that. But they can turn, those people can turn legal. Once they start to roll it out, they go, hey, I can do it. Listen, we're going to disagree on this. I don't want them 1,000 feet.
I'm agreeing with you.
No, I don't want them 1,000. I don't want them 1,000 feet.
I am agreeing with you, David. What I'm saying is,
I don't think, excuse me, what I'm saying is I don't think that we should offer the exemption because we don't have a ton in this community. So it's not like he can say, there is no place else that I can open in this community. He can't say that. So if he wants to be in this community, and that's what I'm saying.
yeah, like, we're agreeing. I don't know. Okay, can I just, because,
When I look down that area, like he said, we have Rite Aid that's open. We have further down the block, I believe there's a couple of places open. If you want to be in the hot district, and I didn't necessarily agree with how 70th Road was characterized, because 70th Road is Restaurant Row. It's where people kind of like at least start their night. If they're going to go to the movies, they grab something to eat on Restaurant Row, and then they go somewhere else, or they go to Martha's. So that is kind of a big thoroughfare. It's just not as hella trafficked as Continental. And I am concerned. To me, it's just, I get what he's trying to do, and he's trying to find a huge space so that he can have his store and have the space in the back. I would have no problem with him having a store, but I don't think we have to have it right on the butt side of Curaleaf. And I also find it interesting that some of the pitch that we were getting tonight is very Curaleafian, if I can coin that phrase, about having the more, which is what we want. We want to see people asking more in-depth conversations other than, oh, you have knee problems, take cannabis. There's research being done that is showing that there are some things happening, especially in older people with bone issues and so on, and counter problems with and so on. So to not ask those questions, you know, is problematic. So I think that's a good thing. I don't think I would have a problem necessarily with this application, but I have no interest in that, what is it, 1,000 feet? We're not at that point yet. We literally have had 2, we have 2 more, that's 4.
And they're a lot more.
And they're all spread out. I don't see it, and again, how many of us walk past vacant spaces? And just because you start in one space doesn't mean that once you get the license to have the other, that you can't move into a bigger space. I don't know, I'm not in favor of the exception at all. And I honestly, thinking about the people of this community, they're not gonna want that either.
I am agreeing, and I just wanted to say that a lot of the things that he was mentioning tonight, I don't know if you guys picked up on it, he was mentioning all these things because due to the fact that he's looking to do this consumption thing, which is not currently something that's in play. They're not allowed to consume on the site. So this is why I brought it up. I said, what's your contingency plan? Because he mentioned the retractable roof, and he mentioned this event space, and then co-working space. And I was like, okay, cool, love that. However, that is something that is in the works. We don't know, and they may change it. New York changes their mind on a lot of things sometimes, and it takes a long time to get things approved. So that was my concern. Heather, we've always talked about businesses coming into the community and staying in the community and not closing down in 6 months. And that's my concern, is that if these things don't get approved, is he going to end up staying in the community because he can't do all these cool things that he has planned? That's my concern. I agree with you and David. I don't think that he should be in that thoroughfare. I think it's a very busy thoroughfare, yes, but there are other busy thoroughfares in Forest Hills and also in Rico Park. And I don't like that it's right there, right around the corner from what we have I just feel like one should be further into the turnpike, because that's also still Forest Hills personally.
David raised the point, which real quick, is that there is so much turmoil right now in OCM, because they've had so much change in leadership. He forwarded me an article from the Post, which talks a lot about that. And so with everything sort of in flux right now, I think it does seem like, because we finally heard about those first 2, which we didn't hear about the other, so it does seem like something's changing, which might be good. But there's also a lot of arguing going on about who's getting the licenses. So to me, I sort of feel like OCM is having a bit of an identity crisis, which I think really makes it harder for us to do what we want to do, because we don't know where they stand. It's kind of like, with a relationship, I don't know where we stand. Like, do you really love me? Do you not? It's kind of like that. And so it's hard because, sure, on the 10th, they might get approved, but that doesn't necessarily mean the board's going to approve. And that's just for them to have the exemption. This is what I wanted to ask you, is if they get approved for the exemption, does that mean that that's just the approval, and that our opinion is just filed it under?
So without the exemption, they can't open.
But
So
if they get the
exemption, that's approval of their license.
Okay, so it's not 2 approvals, it's not just the exemption, and then they wait to hear from us. It's just a twofer.
I don't believe so.
Okay, thank you.
As I understand, they did approve their license, and now this location is subject to the exemption.
Would we extend an invite for the wife to attend via Zoom?
Always.
Yeah, if she's up to kicking her feet up to a warm cup of chamomile and talking to us, well, she's pregnant, so she may have a chamomile.
Oh, that's
why we're wild, we're pregnant.
You'll find out she knows absolutely nothing about it.
And then my
Yeah, I don't think it will change.
Great question.
And then, probably not an answer for my second question, now that you explained about the turmoil at OCM. But my question was, do you have an idea of what neighborhoods they did approve this exemption? Just to kind of gauge what could come. Like, were these neighborhoods where it only limited up to like 2
don't oppose that they're so close to Curaleaf. And my only argument to that, or the reason why, is because they're into different blocks. So if they were on the same block right next to each other, or even in front of each other, then I wouldn't like it. But 1,000 feet is, in a way, an arbitrary number that the OCM came up with. I don't know what's the thought behind it. So they could have said, I don't know, 800 feet, and maybe now they would have been within regulations. So that's the only reason I'm not so against it. And if the vision that he has of consumption and what he's thinking that the space could be, I think it would be exciting for the community to have a place like that and where it is. So that's my only argument in favor of that.
Last statement, is there anything we can do to, at least as OCM, to wait until we give our recommendation, or are we just kind of sitting on it,
We can submit a letter to them saying like that we met with the applicant, but we won't be voting until December 11th, so that when they meet with them on December 10th, they might say, we'll wait till next month's meeting, because they've been having monthly, the Cannabis Control Board has monthly meetings. They had a meeting last month, so they could wait until their next meeting to vote on his exemption. Obviously, he doesn't want that, but if we can write a letter basically saying that we met with the applicant, we understand he's gonna be coming before you. I don't even think he's certain that they are gonna vote on his exemption on December 10th. He just knows that they're reviewing his application and their next meeting is scheduled for December 10th. So if that's what the committee wants, we can write a letter to them. Again, the community board is issuing a recommendation. So it's not
or
an
advisory
approval.
committee?
Yeah,
But
so,
I think it would be really nice for us, not speaking for the whole board, but I think I feel pretty strongly that the whole board's going to say, yes, we want OCM to stick to this 1,000 feet rule, at least for a little while. Let's spread it out across the community before we end up with 5 in Austin Street.
Was there a sense of urgency to do something about the lease, something about getting the space? Wasn't there some nervousness?
well, I think this was the sense of urgency, because he called me, so I spoke to the applicant, and he
Wanted us to push this to November. It was already too late. I told him that we would meet in December. He wanted the community board to vote on it in November. And it seems like he wanted that to happen because he knew there would be a cannabis control board meeting in the beginning of December. So he wouldn't be in this predicament because we would have already voted.
I don't see a copy on his lease where if he doesn't get his license, then he can get out of his lease. That was Spence getting the lease there. I don't know. He might be locked into his lease, period. But it's under
Not
the
what he was-
corporation.
If there's already a business in there operating, is his lease valid?
His lease started a month ago.
That's something.
But that's not, he said it's not his business, but they're all, we were just there, the lights are on. We
No,
took
so
pictures.
he's saying he's not renting the
Yeah.
one on the left side, he's renting the one on the right side, it is open.
It's called
Royal Leaf Club.
We took
So
pictures on the way
his
here.
landlord essentially is renting to somebody right now. I mean, I
So is the lease for him, if he said he has
He's
nothing
saying
to
that
do
his
with
lease,
it, is it
I
valid?
thought his lease started October of 2024. Yeah, but he's saying his lease doesn't start until he gets approval from OCM.
So he also kicked the other tenants out?
I
That's what
guess.
I.
Or they're not supposed to be there.
There's no.
Or he got confused with the wider lot.
There's no signage above it.
Well, he
Then there's no
said it was
address
where
that
the
says
illegal
they
shop
were-
was shut
he said
down.
his lease is
That's
made.
where they were. They were on the right side, and they were called Royal Leaf. They were shut down. They had a notice from the sheriff on the window. This Royal Leaf Club open. Now, they could be operating legally. You can sell things that are legal. There's smoke shops that sell things without having a cannabis license, but we don't know that. That would be up to the sheriff and the police. But the fact that he has a lease for a property that is currently being used,
That's what I mean.
Well,
Is
he
it,
has
is
space.
it a lease?
That's where he wants to go.
yeah,
Where Royal Leaf is now?
yes, that's what he
Yeah.
said.
Really?
Because that's why I asked him, is it the left side where the pharmacy was, or is it the right side? And he said, no, where the Royal Leaf shop was that was shut down.
So could they have them on monthly
I
fees?
think he, by the way, I think he is royalty.
I have a question.
This is the picture
So,
that I took tonight.
Remember the law that Lynn Schulman and Carolina Rivera wrote about landlords and
they
how?
could be liable if they rent.
Yes.
someone that's operating.
So could it possibly be that they're letting them operate there now and will use that as an impetus to get rid of them? And then they can move in, because the lease does say portion A, which is where you took pictures of. So is that, because that also
But he's
makes,
saying that his lease, I didn't read through the whole lease.
the lease started in
That's
October.
what I thought, but he's saying that the lease does not become effective until he gets his license.
But no, according to this, he pays $100.
Full on.
Well, this is what it says. You pay $100 for the first 12 months payable in advance on the first day of each month commencing the date of business commences operations in that location, then $12,500 for the remainder of the lease, beginning the 13th month from operation commencing. So if I'm reading that correct, shouldn't he be paying $100 right now for October, for November, for December? So he should be $300 in. Landlord can't rent to two people.
But I asked him
This is
specifically, I
$10,000.
said, and he said, no, the lease does not start until I am granted this license.
Well, then why does the
Unless
lease-
there's something that he didn't give us,
There's nothing in the lease that states.
you know, maybe there's something in, you know, something else. But there is a business open there today.
Yep.
Where he wants to go.
Yeah, because you saw balloons,
Right, where he wants to go.
I didn't see
That
that.
is the address he wants to go.
That's what he told me when I asked him, is it this side or this side? He said this side.
Which is where Rod is.
Yeah.
Because last Monday, you saw a sign that said grand reopening.
It didn't say grand opening, there was balloons and there's flowers and there's all sorts of stuff.
Oh my God.
If he's from the neighborhood, that's why he presented to me. He should know. He should have known that this place was even.
It's lit up like
A legal
a,
document that says this place is
I was like
yours.
Christmas tree, but, yeah.
So this is the.
It's so nice to know
This is what's
That's
open.
crazy.
the way the building is laid out.
There's too much of
A
mess with this.
is the pharmacy or A is the royal lease club, because like when I go to the address, it just pops up as a
Well, I asked him, that's why I asked him, I said, is it the pharmacy side or is it the other side? And he said, no, it's the other side.
No, I don't know.
He said that.
That's something
That's
that's
something
open.
he said.
So, okay, so the next steps are, since you can take a straw poll, on what, so is there a recommendation on the floor? Anyone?
So right now, what we're recommending is for him to get that building, not for him to get the application. Because at this point, it seems like it could be both two different supporting him, two different ways. Either supporting him for him to get the application operating for sales, or for him to get the license only if you are in that location.
No, so when we approve the license, we approve it for the location.
For the location.
Yeah, so we wouldn't say like we approve him for a license, but take it somewhere else. You know, we could say that we support opening a business if it's not within a, so we could add something like to say that, you know, we support you opening a business in our community, but we don't support you being so close to another establishment. If you wanted to do something like that, you could, but he would have to supply a physical address. He would have to come back to us with a new address before we could actually say whether we support it.
Yeah, and that makes sense. Okay, so.
What do you, anyone have a recommendation?
There definitely needs to be some conditions. I don't know, I still don't know if I'm comfortable saying yes, that's the thing.
Because of the proximity or because of other things?
There's a lot of things. Proximity.
So why don't you take two votes? Why don't, like, just for the awareness factor? So first, why don't you take a vote just to see how many people on the committee would be in favor of two applications opening within 1,000 feet of each other? This way you know what your committee feels. And again, you don't have a quorum, so it's not official, but, because if most of the committee doesn't support that, then you can't support his
we,
So
the
technically,
nays
it
have
does
it.
have it, yes.
But you should, for perspective, when you give your report, give the margins.
Okay.
So that they can see that there was unanimous.
And I will say, if it wasn't like the 1,000 feet rule, I would have said yes, but there would still be conditions that I would like to know. I need to see your marketing plan, like your social media, because I don't like this targeted social media post being restricted for audiences. How do you handle that?
I don't think he's the one that has to handle that. I think it was if it's Google. Google is the one that does the ad or anything. TikTok, all of them are the ones. It's not the business. I
How
think
does
it's a
it
business.
guarantee that it's going to be 21 older?
I'd like to see that because you can work with, because like my company works with Google, we have Google Grant, and we tell them like what we want to see.
Microphone, you're talking too much. If you just say 1 or 2 words, it's acceptable.
So I believe there are, I mean, I'm not a marketing person, so I don't know the whole ins and outs, so I will preface that in the camera. However, my company got a Google grant, and we work with someone to help us curate to a certain audience. So I just kind of want to see what his plans are, because he said he didn't have that plan. Also, he still didn't answer the question like why they're open till 10 p.m. I'd like to know more about that. You know, he also said he couldn't answer the plan on when they would switch from it being his wife be the person, even though you won't like him, to becoming the management. So there are a few questions that he literally said on mic, like, I can't answer that right now. And I'd like to have those answers before I even comfortably say yes, even if he was opening somewhere else.
I think the manager question, he said that they want to do it as soon as possible. That if they find the person that they feel will be the right person for their business, they'll hire her. So they said as of the moment, the wife will be the one in charge. But if by the opening day, he said, but if by opening day they do have a manager, then that's the manager that they're going to have. So I think that's the answer. I don't, it's not giving an exact date, but I think that's just,
Also kind of just,
I'm sorry, I think it's lip service.
I was going to kind of disagree with what Robert was saying is, yes, she is the person, her name is on the license, but that's just a veil. And that's a little like, we're agreeing to support this, but we know about this veil kind of thing. So like, is that look bad on us as a board that we're giving support to without not even, knowing that this person may not know much about the business, as you mentioned, like having her come on Zoom, but we learned she may not know anything. We don't know, she might, we don't know that. Those are just my concerns, is like, we want to make sure that people will see us as, we're trying to understand the full picture. And that's where I feel like we're kind of is a gray area there. And for public members, or community members who may watch this video that are on the board, we want them to feel like we've looked at every possible thing that could come up. That's my own concern. That's all.
so the next.
So I think that your committee motion unofficially
Yes.
is that you are recommending that the community board disapprove the application because it's within 1,000 feet of another cannabis retail dispensary that's already open. Is that correct? Is that what everybody feels?
correct.
Well,
Yeah, we check.
the nays say that.
The nays have
the
that.
nays have
That's
that.
what the straw poll says.
And the community board can say, we don't agree, we think that it's okay. So like I said, there's 6 of you and there's 45 community board members. So, but that's what your committee is going to come to the community board and say, that after discussion, this is what we feel.
However, if we hear that OCM gave the exemption, then, do we still say that we disapprove? Because the exemptions are been given, so would we in turn?
But our recommendation will stay the same.
Okay.
So even if OCM says, we think that they should be allowed to open, your recommendation is still saying that you don't agree with that, that you prefer it to be further away.
Can we also, because you said 2 votes, can the second vote be, if he gets a location that's open, that's at least
No, that's a whole separate application.
Okay, because
Yeah, so
I'll
I
have to do it
wouldn't
again.
broach broach that until he comes back and says, you know, I have a location, and this is where I'd like to open, and then you can ask, you know, further questions.
Can I ask
Whatever
you
questions.
one thing before?
Sorry.
I did get concerned also when he talked about distribution, because, and, you know, eventually wanting to brand his own products and so on. The reality is that's a separate license itself, is manufacturing. And we also have to understand what that area is zoned for. You know, is there zoning in that area that will allow? Now, City of Yes is getting voted on literally tomorrow. And I believe that's part of City of Yes. But that's my other question, because you talked about, you know, bigger orders. And this was the first time we had anyone talk about bigger orders. It was always, you know, individual orders, you know, 2 people going with individual. When he was talking about bigger orders that would require a truck and require a person to stay with the truck, a person to unload the truck, we haven't had that come before us. You know, and so that kind of, and then when we got into the branding part, you asked, you know, I think it was you that asked about that, and he talked about, you know, that it would only be, you know, merged for right now, but then further down the line, he'd like to do that. I sort of feel like, it's like, well, what license do you want? I want all the licenses. Because that's sort of the feeling I'm getting, is like, he doesn't just want the humble storefront. He wants the consumption, and he wants to have these space, which I understand. There may not be marijuana consuming friendly meeting spaces. And meeting space is hard to find in this neighborhood anyway, let alone where you can kind of like smoke it up and have a go, you know. So I totally get that, but when we talk about manufacturing, I feel like we're saying yes, and we're only seeing like the tip of the iceberg. Like there's this whole other plan underneath that we're not hearing and seeing that I think we need to fully understand. And I think that's hard, because right now the way the licensing is set up is we can only speak on this one thing. We don't know anything about the future. Like he's looking into the hourglass and thinking, well, when we're able to. Well, the thing is, you're asking for us to trust you today, but the space is going to allow you to do the forever, and now we're having to sort of think abstractly about that. And I think that's really going to be challenging. And I think family with kids are going to have a problem with them being in that footprint anyway. But in that area,
But I think our approval is, you know, on any of these applications, our approval is for retail cannabis dispensing.
Yeah.
So at this time, that's all we would be approving for them.
Yeah.
We wouldn't be approving manufacturing, we wouldn't be approving any of that, because that's not, you know, something that they're asking us to approve at this point. So any of the applications that have come before us could branch out to all these things, they just haven't told us that.
they haven't been,
You know?
Okay. Fair enough.
I think that will come, you know, in the future, but I think that we're voting on their ability to sell retail cannabis to consumers.
Listen, I think it's important for businesses to have a vision. I think we want businesses that want to grow and stay here, and I think that's fine. But I think we also want to make sure that the community can absorb it, and I honestly just don't think this 1,000 feet thing is necessary at this point. You know, I don't know.
I'm done. No more words.
I'll be really quick. Yeah, 2 things to that. First, yes, based on his Instagram and based on what I see and perceive, yes, he wants to be in the forefront of the cannabis industry here in New York City, and I think that's wonderful. Like, you know, go for the gold. I do think neither him or his wife, when they open their retail shop, and I'm quite sure he's got cousins and brothers and sisters that are all applying for licenses, and he's behind all of them. And that's great. He's in the forefront of the industry. Go for it. And that extra space in the back, whether it happens there or somewhere else, he wants to have lead lectures. I mean, I can see it from his Instagram. This is what he wants to do. He wants to be in the forefront. And like you said, we are here now just with this individual application. And I'll reiterate, I'm not ready to set the president to have multiple locations, 8, 10 locations on Austin Street yet. Right now, there are 1,000 put us 4 pretty much from the precinct up to Askin. There's a church there, so it's a little weird, but I'm okay with 4, and that's what 1,000 people would give us. I forgot my other point.
Would we want to require him to have responses by next week for all of our open-ended questions?
Sorry, I remember the point.
My other point is,
Before we get to end.
can we, please, I'd really like to read, I think we owe it to the community because I think people are going to be like, oh my goodness, we have another cancer dispensary 1 block away, right on Continental. What has our community boards haven't done about this? I think we, at the very least, owe a reach out to OCM saying, hey, can you wait until we give our recommendation, whether you listen to our recommendation or not? I think we owe it to our community to ask them to wait 1 week. This guy has a 10-year lease. It's not going to kill him as $1 million. He states here that he intends on making $1 million a month. 1 month's not going to kill him. Thank you.
Does anybody on the committee have an issue with me submitting a request to OCM, asking them to wait until after December 11th to decide on the proximity waiver?
Yeah.
I have a question. Oh, asking them to answer the question. So, Bradley, you had some.
So anybody that has questions, you can send them to me. A week is kind of short notice, but we can ask them to answer as many of them as possible. Some of the questions, I don't know that they will have an answer, like some of the marketing stuff, until they hire like a marketing team, until they, get into the actual business of it. So they may just say that they can't answer the question, but we can certainly, if you guys can send me any of those questions via email, I can forward it to them and ask if they can answer any of them before the next meeting.
Motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn? I need a motion first on the table.